Hello, hello, Debbie Hodge here, and I want to talk to you about converting paper pages into getting digital versions of paper scrapbook pages. I'm working on my class curated albums, and I'm going through almost 20 years of scrapbook pages and making albums that compile things around different story arcs. And that's requiring that I merge my digital and my paper scrapbook pages. One of the albums that I'm working on reveals my son's personality. And so I've scanned in a bunch of those pages, but as you can see, I've only scanned in a half. I've scanned it in two pieces because I've got a regular scanner that will only scan A4 size. So I don't have a large format scanner. So I'm going to show you what you do when you don't. I know a lot of people photograph their layouts and get great results. I love the scanning. I like it because it gives me real precision and it allows me to go in and actually layer the original photos over top. So let's take a look. Let's grab this page from my son's birthday party. So there's the two halves. I'm trying to show aspects of his personality in this curated album, and one aspect of his personality is that he always goes for the odd thing. At Halloween, when everybody else is a Star Wars character, he's a lovable stuffed animal, even though, yeah. And here for a birthday party, he couldn't have a cowboy party. He couldn't have an astronaut or a space party. He had to have a space cowboy party. So this, I think he was like 4 here. So I've got the two halves that I scanned in with my scanner. And in the class curated albums at getatscrap.com/curated albums, I actually show you how to work with the scanner, how to work with the pages, how to get good scans, my whole process. Here I'm just going to show you the stitching. I'm doing my stitching with Photoshop CS6. You can also use Photoshop Elements. Just use the Photoshop, the photo merge. Look in there to see what the command is to stitch panorama images or to photo merge elements or create panoramas. So this has worked the same way in Photoshop since I've been using it, Photoshop CS. So it's always been easy for me to find. I think it's much easier to use than people realize. So I've got my two elements that I scanned, and when I scanned them, I scanned them both at the same time, all at the same settings. I was very careful to get the page as straight as possible. But this is actually forgiving even if things are kind of crooked. So you'll go to File, Automate, Photo Merge. And if you only have the files open that you're going to merge, it makes it easier. So those are the only things I've got open right now are these two sides of this layout. You choose for layout, choose Auto. Make sure you've clicked that you've ticked off Blend Images Together. Add those open files to your list. So those are the files I'll be merging. Click OK. And watch it merge. It does a really nice job of this. I'm always kind of amazed at the outcome. It's looking a little odd at the moment, but hold on. It will merge it and it will be beautiful. Look at that, it's merged. So that's a new file. There's the two old files that I had open that I merged. I'm just going to close those. Here's a new file with the merged sides. And if you look, there's actually two layers in the layers palette. I'm going to merge those layers and make it all one. And I want to pop it up a little bit. It's a little bland. And I'm actually going to go grab the original photos and layer them on here too, because I'm kind of fussy like that. So the first thing I want to do is bump it up a little bit. You could do that with curves in Photoshop, or you could do it with levels. I really like using Totally Rad Lab. That's what I do with my bumping with. So I'm going to open Totally Rad Lab, and brightening it up is not going to be good. Darkening it up is not going to be good. I think either Punch or Snap. Let me work with Snap, and I'm going to pull back the Snap a little bit. The Snap is the part that sharpens. I don't want it overly sharpened. I don't want it to look unnatural. Maybe bring that back just a little bit. And finish up applying my Rad Lab bump. So this could be whatever filter you use. But you want to sharpen things up. You want to get the color just a little richer. So whatever adjustments you use to do that. So that looks richer. The other thing that you can do with Rad Lab, I don't know if you guys know this, is you can do, oh, not the way I did it this time. I added a layer. There's two ways to use Rad Lab. One way is to apply it right to the current layer, or one way is to add it to a new layer. So there it is, added on a new layer, and I can actually pull that back a bit if I want, if I think the effect is too much. And that's going to be a judgment call on your part. Let's see, turn it off, turn it on. Well, let's pump it back up. Turn it off, turn it on. I think since I'm going to bring in, I like how it looks on everything except the photos, but I'm going to bring in the original photos. So I think I'll just bring it back to like 80%. And then I'll merge those layers. And I need to crop it to a square item. It's a square page originally. So I'll go on my crop and I'll go on a 1-to-1 ratio for the cropping. And I think I'll just make it down just a little bit. You know, the problem is you don't want to lose. My pages often went right to the edge. It's hard to know how to get it just right so that you don't lose too much and everything's in there. So I don't really want to lose that torn edge down at the bottom. So I guess I will go like that. Look at that. It's all cropped up square. Now, one of the problems I might have when I print it digital is it's going pretty close to the edge over here, and I might lose that. Sometimes I will actually just make this layer a little bit smaller, and then I could put a black cardstock behind that. Let's see how that would look. So that's with a black border. I think I would want a textured cardstock there. I think I'm actually just going to stick with it the way it was. But those are options you have, and because things can be a little crooked or you can be worried about losing edges, that's one thing you can do. Now let me show you what I'm going to do about the photos. I've talked in my other organizing my layouts videos about the process I use for saving things and storing them. This layout is from June 2003. So I can go over to my library of photos and I can find those photos from June 2003 pretty easily. See, those are layouts. Photos from 2003. His birthday was in June. So let's see, Isaac birthday party. So here's a folder of all those photos from the birthday party. And one thing that I used to do whenever I made scrapbook pages was I usually, and look, I did it here, I almost always saved the photos that I printed. So I know that one's on the page, so let me open that one up. Although I'm thinking I would probably prefer the editing I would do on it today than the editing I did back then. This is back when I did not have a very good digital camera, and those were the years where my photos did not look good. Let's see, what else do I have on this page? Him and his brother, and him on that horse with a hula hoop. Let's see if those are cropped. There we are, the hula hoop, and there was with his brother. So let me open those all up. As I look at these photos, what I'm wishing I could improve would be they feel grainy or pixelated, and also they're very pink. They're very, I'm not crazy about the color, so I'm just going to see if I can fix that at all. Something I often do with older photos is not only do I have the Rad Lab lab, I have the old Rad Lab Actions, and there's one called Smooth-O-Matic, so I'll run that to take some of the graininess out. Now you see it's gotten quite blurry, but that smoothing layer is on, it's on its own layer, so I could reduce the opacity of it, or I could even try different blending modes with it. I'm not a fan of artsy, unrealistic blending modes. I like things as realistic as I can get them. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to pull that back. Now, do I like it better with it? I like it better with it. I like smoothing things out. So now let me try that over here on this one. And again, I'll just make the opacity of that layer all the way back to like 20 on that one. And let's see, this is the money shot here, the big one. And I guess having a poor photo is better than no photo at all, right? So I'm smoothing that one out. Do we like it? Might go back even farther. And let me merge those layers down. And now let's take it into Rad Lab and see if we can what we can do for it. Is it that I need to warm it up? Let's see. What I like about Rad Lab is you can see the effect things have on things right away. So I think while I'm thinking the picture's kind of blue, and that warming it up is indeed what I want to do, but not to that, just a little bit. I mean, I could try even desaturating, but see how warming that up just takes that blue out of it? I had said it was red, but really what it was blue. And then let's see what happens if I lighten it up. Nah. You know, I have there's another filter in here called Prettyizer, which usually is too much for almost everything, but let's just turn on Prettyizer, and then we'll take the glow way back, and we'll take the strength of it way back. Let's turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. I think I like it off, so I'm going to finish up with that. And then one other Rad Lab action that I have is this one that lets me bump up the eyes. So that is Pro Retouch, so let's work with that. Just because this is the focal point photo on the page, so I want to work with it a little. And I see that there's almost catch lights in his eyes. With this action, you can, one of the layers that results is called Eye Bump. And you can just go paint over it and try and bring those catch lights up a little. Now that's eerie, that's way too much. So do we like it with the eye bump or not? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think I like it. I'll probably bring it back just a little bit more. Maybe just a little bit too much still. Okay. So now let me flatten that down again. So I've brought my photo in, and now let me see how it looks. The problem is this layout that I've made here, I scanned in at 600 pixels per inch. So I'm just going to bring this down to keep it. I want it to be 12 inches by 12 inches and 300 pixels per inch. And that will print just fine and display just fine. Now let's bring my layout. There we go. Yay! All is not lost. So I like to do this fussy work where I get this fresh photo in there because there's such a difference. So I want to layer it on over here. You see it's not fitting perfectly. Bring it up a little bit bigger. A problem I often have when I scan things in also is the one that I layer on ends up being maybe a little more crooked than the original. So I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. And there's a black mat back there, so trim the bottom off of it. Let's see how that fits there. Do you notice what my next problem is going to be with this? Anybody noticing? Whoops. I guess I somehow flattened that down. Alright. So there it is. And I want that black mat to show, so I guess I'm going to have to trim a little bit off the side here too. So I'm just using the rectangular marquee tool to select an area and then trim it off the side. Alright, do you see what my problem is now? If you look at this page, got this photo, but this tag now is tucked underneath it. So what I'm going to do is go to that original layout layer and use, what do you call this tool? The quick selection tool. I find it works really nicely. And I'm just going to select the part of the tag and the photo turn that's covering the photo. I don't have to select all of it. I only have to select the part that's covering the photo. Let's see if I can get in there. Nope, that took too much. Make my brush a little bit smaller. There we go. Looks like I've gotten it. So now I also, ooh, there's a little bit more I didn't get right there. Shoot. Can I get it? Let's try the magic wand tool. I mean, I don't want to spend tons of time doing this, but if I can fix it up with just a little bit, I really want to. It's getting a little bit closer. See if we can get the rest of that. All right, I've gotten most of it. And now what I want to do is I like to smooth the edges. So I'll do selection, because I've got a selection there. I'll modify, smooth. So I'm going to smooth it like by, I guess, 4 pixels. Maybe I'll do that again. Select, or I can use refine edge to do that also. Smooth it out. All right. Now I've got that original scrapbook layer selected, and I'm going to press Control J to copy that tag to a new layer. If I hide this, you'll see. See, there's the tag. And now let's see what happens if I put the photo layer below the tag. Now can I slide it in there, and does it look realistic enough? I think it does. I could add a shadow to it. I could go to my styles and add a drop shadow. Let's find a drop shadow. Let's go with Flat Paper Shadow by Celine Studio. Maybe just a stitching and staple shadow. So now the shadow's pointing the wrong way. You know, I had cut that just a little bit, and you can see there's odd shadows right there. So let's send the shadow this way. And then let's put the shadow on its own layer. And then I'm going to go to the shadows layer, bump it over so that we don't have this odd stuff. I'm even going to go in with my eraser and erase any of the shadow that's on the downside over here. See, I don't want any of the shadow in there. I only want the shadow going over my photo. So see that? It's not perfect. Looks like I'm missing a little bit of the tag down below, but I wonder if I bop the photo up. Yeah, if I slide the photo up, I don't have that problem anymore, do I? Now maybe I'll take a sliver off the top of the photo so that I have my mat. There we go. All right, that is looking really good. So let me save this before I move on to the other 2 photos. Okay, let's finish this up here. I need to put in those 2 other smaller photos. And I'm going to go use, I smoothed it, so let me merge that down. Now let's go into Rad Lab, and hopefully my settings from last time are still there. They are. So remember, all I did was I warmed it up. Guess that's all I'm going to do to that one. And let's do the same with, I already took care of that one. Let's do the same with this one. Merge down that smoothed layer, and then let's see how it looks with the warming up. Yeah, see how nice that warming is? At least to my eye it is. All right, so now let's get the layout back. And drag these 2 smaller photos over. That one layers right over nicely. Or does it? You know, I got a little bit of the crooked thing going on. I think if I make it a little bit bigger, then it'll cover up the lines of the photo below. And I'm going to add a drop shadow, a digital drop shadow to it. And then let's take this one. Now, looks like this is a different crop than I used in the picture there. Let me see if I have the other one with that original crop in it. So here's another version of that picture. Let me just open that one up and see if that'll layer on there better. So we'll add that smoothing layer with the, use the Rad Lab action, the Smooth-O-Matic action. Lower the opacity on that a bit because it's a little too smooth. merge those layers. And then go into Rad Lab and warm it up. And now bring this over here, layer it in its spot, and add a digital drop shadow from my Styles palette. I'm using drop shadows made by Celine Studio right here. And if you look, things aren't exactly the same height, but I kind of think that lends to the feeling of a paper page. Yeah, I've got to make that a little bit big, otherwise the original photo shows below it. I think that looks good. Let's add a drop shadow to this other photo that I added too. Alright, so there is my page stitched and new photos added to it. And just to remind you what it looked like before I edited those photos. See how that brightens it up just to use those photos? So now I have my paper page converted into a digital page in high resolution that can be printed or shared online. We'll be doing a lot more of this in curated albums at getitscrap.com/curated albums.